In this lesson, we'll cover how to create new datasets out of subsets and indexing. There are a few different ways to exclude variables and make subsets using both negative signs and explanation points. Before we get started, let's make sure to load some data, and we're going to take it from the mass package. The data of interest is the Cars93 dataset. We can quickly explore it using the head function. We can see that there are a lot of variables. 93 observations with 27 different variables. We could have also done this by using the dimension function. Now let's first look at the familiar square bracket subsetting. So I'm going to take out just a few columns. We're going to look at the model, type, and price. So executing this just pulled out those three columns, and I could have assigned this to a separate subset data of this full data set. Instead of putting the column names, we also could have just entered in integers specifying the index of that column. We can also use the which function. This is a logical function which returns matching values that cause the statement to be true. For example, let's look at the Cars93 dataset, and we're going to ask which column names of that dataset equals the string model. And it returns the full list of models. Now, why don't we just look at that which function to see how it behaved? So it returns to us just a single number, and that number is the column index that we're interested in. Now let's look at some other helpful ways to use the which function. I find it to be extremely helpful for subsetting rows because we can easily extract a single characteristic. For extracting rows, we need to bring the which statement to the other side of the comma. And why don't we search for a specific cylinder type? This line of code is basically saying that I want the rows for which the cylinder column has a rotary value. And it's a little messy, but you can see that there's just one car, and it's the 57th observation of the Cars93 dataset. It's a Mazda XR7. What about cars with 8 cylinders? Well, there's a few more. It looks like there are 7 observations that are 8-cylinder engines. Now we can subset by rows and columns simultaneously. Right now we're pulling out all the rows where the cars have 8 cylinders. But maybe we just want to see the model and price of those cars. All of these cars have 8 cylinders, and these are the different prices in thousands of dollars. What about for a 6-cylinder engine? Well, there are many more 6-cylinder engines. Now this can be helpful because we can compare the means of these different groups. So I'm going to wrap this subset data into the mean function. It returned an NA because I'm trying to get the mean of model names. Instead, I just want the mean of the prices. So I'm going to take out the model column. We can see $24,000. And then for an 8-cylinder engine, it's $33,000, so a little more expensive. Now let's create a subset of the Cars dataset, and we'll call it Ford data. This is going to be the data for all the Ford cars. And instead of getting the full 27 variables, let's just pick out a few that we might be interested in. We'll get model, price, miles per gallon in the city, whether they have airbags, and number of cylinders. And so this is the dataset, and there are 8 different cars produced by Ford in 1993. Now we can use a negative sign or an explanation point to exclude certain data. So let's say we want to exclude cars with 6 or 8 cylinders. So we'll use our Ford dataset. We're going to use minus which. So this line of code removed all of the cars that have 6 cylinders. In this lesson, we talked about how to subset and index your data and how to create new data sets that might contain specific information from the full data set. The most important function to take away from this lesson is the which function.